The whole gang's here. Tara's here as well.
Dear God, who's making money?
That's why I was running a little bit late trying to make us some money.
Come on, Tara. So for those of you who are watching, feel free to get your questions in now. We go through them first come, first serve. So whenever you put your tech questions in, we'll start at 15 minutes after the hour, but we just let people get their questions in early. I see that Hannah has asked one, and we'll hold that for the official webcast.
Like a real question?
A real question. Yeah, it's not about our audio or video either.
Right.
Yeah. So the problem that we're trying to figure out now is that we're trying to figure out, like, Erik has his client whose weight stats reset, and we're trying to come up with a mental idea of what it would take to reset someone's weight stats without doing DBCC SQL perf.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that wasn't just for you, but just for the for the listeners. None of us understand how we're going to do that.
Okay.
Something is going on. We have no idea what. So I have a really bad idea, and it's not working yet. But now I'm just desperate to go try it at some point.
People, just be thankful you're not in our Slack channel, because it gets really scary and dark at times.
Deeply technical. Although I will note that we have not said hardly anything about the past elections. I opened up Twitter while I was walking Ernie just to see, and I was like, oh, yep, nope, that's why I'm not reading Twitter. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I know your video went crappy. Oh, wait, no, everyone's video went crappy, so mine
tech support. Oh, tech support.
Let me, for the first time ever, have to pause Dropbox.
Yeah, I don't ever touch that.
That's funny. I don't usually think about it. And I have a stack of laptops over there that are all syncing, but well, plus we're all in here now. None of us are saving anything. We're not doing any work.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Elvis is trying. He's trying anything.
Oh. So I fly off to the Isle of Man on Friday. Woohoo!
Oh, that's right. I remember
Yeah.
talking about that. That's been scheduled for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, months. Got that all coordinated months ago, so.
I have to Google where that is again.
It's in between England and something.
No man
That's
is an
very
island,
exotic.
but there is the Isle of Man. Yeah, separate government. They have a really cool symbol on their flag. It's like 3 legs in a circle, kicking
those guys.
stuff.
So is it its own country, or is it part of Britain, or
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of like its own country. They don't have to. They kind of obey some of England's laws, but not all. So there's gambling over there. Taxes are totally different.
So it's like they started their own Australia.
Exactly. Yes, with Jeremy Clarkson. So it's like they're all convicts over there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's really.
I think I found the problem.
Oh yeah.
I had my 2017 VM still running.
Oh, or you like downloading Windows updates too as well? Or?
No, but it has a bunch of RAM. So I was thinking, so maybe the video was just like, no, we can't do both.
Is Tara's video frozen for everyone else?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's hard to tell.
She just has this flat on her
Just in there looking disapproving at us as usual.
I didn't even do anything.
Oh my gosh.
I got to take a picture of it and put it in the company Slack channel so she can see what she looks
Well,
like.
I can see the frozen video.
Oh, okay.
Quick, everyone do the YMCA thing. Right your wall.
It's funny because it's funny because video is never my problem. It's always audio or copy paste or something else. Video has never been one of them. I'm not even doing anything.
Oh, you could stop your webcam and restart it if you want. Yeah. That usually does it for me.
All right.
There it goes. Ta-da! Thomas says, it's not frozen here. I just see a black screen where Tara is. Well, it just left, but she'll come back on here in a minute. Or she won't come back. She may not.
It's not letting me now. I stopped it and I shared it, and it's just like spinning.
Oh, this is so. If people wonder what we do. This is what we do. We do technical support. We just kind of.
I was just excited when copy paste started working yesterday, because that's I started to the client, and I had to ask them to send me the Blitz Index mode 4 output. I don't like the Blitz Index output in our spreadsheet. It doesn't have everything. It doesn't have mode 4. So I like
Oh, put an issue in for that. We can add that.
I don't know. I don't ever know if it's just me, if that's just what I want to see.
Yes, you can add that. Absolutely, you can. I have made sure that you're able to do that.
Remind me what mode 4 is.
It just has the lower priorities. So you get your borderline duplicate key indexes, for instance, because those can be quite a lot on some systems. But it gives also lower thresholds, like for, I don't know, unused indexes with low rates. Not that I want to see those, but that's in the list, So just lower priority.
The indexes M4 tab should have that in there.
It doesn't, though. It says M4, but it's not mode 4. It more matches mode 0.
File a bug because I must be doing something wrong. I bet I have the
Brent will
wrong.
fix it.
I'm like, watch Brent tune code. I'm going right into GitHub because I'm like, I'm sure, I almost guarantee it's a mistake on my part.
Maybe it's mode 4, all databases, and it does something different. I don't know, but it's definitely different than if you run So I run mode 4 manually in 1 or 2 databases.
Yeah, get all databases does mode 0. Like there's weird filters for get all databases.
Yeah, but then in this we've got M4 and M0 tabs, and they don't match. And yet mode 4 in Management Studio is completely different than the M4 tab. So these are the issues I have. So I had to put those in an Excel file and have them email it back. And then suddenly copy paste started working, but only for small things.
I got to be doing something wrong. I look at it at first glance. I'm like, it looks okay, but.
Wait, I got a question, Brent, before we get started.
Yeah.
There were cyclists on a ship for the for the America's Cup or whatever.
Yes. So you read that they stopped allowing cyclists on the world or on the America's Cup yachts, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what it used to be, what it's always been in sailing for forever, is there's been this tool called a grinder or a winch that you would rotate with your arms. Oh, Tara's back. Oh, but it's the same exact. Oh no, it is a different picture.
I didn't even click anything. I don't know I am.
All of a sudden it starts.
I better not do anything weird.
So there's this winch, and for forever you've ground it sideways, like the motion that I make, like a butter churn kind of thing. And then later, in order to get more power, they started doing them kind of like a cyclist pedals, except up in the air. And you would rotate on these in order to build hydraulic pressure to move things around on the boat. Because the rule is you're not allowed to have an engine, you're not allowed to have a battery, nothing that would generate power on its own. All the power has to come from the humans or from the wind. And so then it was exhausting for people to do it with their hands. Then they started, New Zealand came up with this idea of using their legs instead. So they made it like a stationary bicycle. So then there's a whole member of the team, like 4 members of the team, who don't know anything about boats. All they are is Olympic cyclists. And they put them on here, and they just cycle continuously. You watch their heart rates, you get all the telemetry stuff. So they're doing like 150, 180 beats per minute continuously throughout the race for an hour, 2 hours, just sprinting. Yeah.
But that's now illegal.
Now they're making them go back to their hands. New Zealand's trying to bring everything back to the original way that sailing was. So they're going with monohulls only. It won't be catamarans anymore. So the boats are going to be way slower, but they'll more represent the kind of sailing that people do in San Diego, for example, like the real sailors will recognize the boats. So I'm excited for that. That'll be cool.
I think they're just mad because they don't have any Olympic cyclists.
So that's another thing they did.
Like, it's so small.
Yeah.
How would you cycle around?
No, and Larry Ellison just kept hiring everybody. He hired all the best sailors from New Zealand and all these other places. And so New Zealand also said there's a rule that like 80% of your team has to be from your country. And you could hear America immediately go, damn! And so Larry Ellison withdrew.
Larry Ellison's going to buy new islands for America then. Larry's going to buy New Zealand.
Oh, sad. Jamie says, Brent, I'm listening while driving home in the Isle of Man. I can guess the company you're visiting on Friday. See,
there's 2 companies there.
Right. I assumed that there would be multiple companies, and everyone keeps telling me that. Like the taxi company's like, oh, don't worry, we know where you're going. I'm like, how?
It's not McDonald's.
One large company, I guess. That can afford to fly you over.
Yeah.
It's lucky for you, Brent, because you usually don't know where you're going. So, hey, now that everyone knows where you're going, you just follow them.
Yeah. I was like, should I rent a car? And they're like, no, you get in the taxi, and the taxi will Okay.
Isle of Man, where everyone has a chauffeur.
I guess it's the same guy. He just drives
Yeah,
different
exactly.
people around, I guess. He says, fancy going for a pint after? Sure. And I would imagine that there's only probably one bar and they serve the beer. Whatever that is. Hannah asks a question. I guess we'll get started with the technical stuff. Hannah says, and of course it's a tough one to get started with. In regards to SA, the SA account and securing an instance, what's the most accepted solution? Should I disable SA and only use Windows Auth, or should I change the SA account? What did y'all do when you were managing servers?
I renamed the SA account and then set the password to something ridiculous that no one could ever type in unless you got the source control. We had to use SQL authentication due to the applications. So I would have preferred to be Windows authentication only, but whether or not you have to set up the instance to be mixed mode authentication to allow SQL authentication is dependent upon the applications that are connecting. So since I had to have SQL auth enabled, wanted to do something about the SA account, so we renamed it and then just had a ridiculous password and put that in source control or in the password manager, of course, but never use the the renamed SA account to log in.
I was in the same boat as Tara, where that old EdsDebo account was a SQL login, so I couldn't just use Windows Auth only. But I would at least make an attempt at keeping SA disabled. Other people with SA privs would come along and turn it back on to do things with, which is kind of aggravating. Room full of developers just changing SA settings. I was like, no, put that Someone's popular.
No, but, it's just spam calls. So many spam calls.
David says, I scramble the SA account daily. I had a vendor that kept resetting it and using the password.
That's interesting.
That's excellent. Next up, Chris says, hi guys, curious what your thoughts are for how many VLFs my database should have. I hear lots of different recommendations. What's a good number to watch out for?
So, I mean,
you can restore quickly.
I have these numbers in my head just based upon all of the databases that I've gone through and shrunk and fixed the VLFs on, because I have ran into a massive downtime because of extremely high VLFs back when I was an intermediate DBA and learned about VLFs afterwards. But anyways, he says that keep them under 100 or 1,000 VLFs. What about for 100 gigabyte database? Generally, they have less than 2,000 VLFs. 2,000 is too high, in my opinion, for a 100 gigabyte database. 100 gigabyte database, I'd expect around less than 200 VLFs. Shrink it down as far as possible, like even to 1 megabyte, and then start growing it out in bigger chunks. But 2,000 is too high, in my opinion, for a 100 gigabyte database.
Yeah, I think the main thing with VLFs, though, is that it really is an odd circumstance where they cause a big problem. So like if you're at the point now where like you're just like, kind of twiddling thumbs and looking for something to fix, go for it. Otherwise I would probably concentrate on something else.
Exactly. And that's what we did at my last 3 jobs. Because we ran into this massive downtime due to high VLFs, it was just about overall, health check of the systems. And so my last job, 2 or 3 times a year, we had this checklist of things that we would do to ramp up for certain holidays that would cause extreme load on our servers. So we had this checklist, and one of them was check VLF. So it's about the health check.
Yeah, because it's one of those things like usually when you fix it once, you don't have to go back and go crazy with it. Like I ran into like a 5 or 6 terabyte database when I first got it, there were like 35,000 VLFs, which even I was like, oh, I should do something about that. But when I got it down to a normal number, I still had a restore take 21 hours with it because the VLFs ended up being...
right. Yeah, that's the balancing act. Yeah.
Oh, that was cute.
Royce says, am I the only one who hates all the cloud talk around SQL Server? I prefer the simplicity and strength of database database integrity. ACID. There are developers struggling to keep up with the latest Visual Studio, much less constantly being bombarded with the cloud migration suggestions. Oh, Richie, this has you written all over it.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it?
Richie's ears started whistling.
Look, my ears are turning red. Not that Brent could tell, but I kind of do, and there's going to be a big push for Microsoft to kind of get everybody into Azure because that's going to be their their next big business venture, and it's not going to be from licensing fees, it's going to be from getting everybody in the cloud. So it's not going to go away anytime soon. The only question is, are you going to go there, or are you going to stay on-prem? And I can only imagine they're going to make it harder as the time goes on for us to stay on-prem, either through higher licensing costs or something other, because they really want us all to get to the cloud. I think you still could do ACID in the cloud without a problem. Azure SQL should be able to do that. But yeah, things are in flux right now in the Microsoft world, with all this stuff with .NET and Visual Studio constantly being re-upped, revamped, and the next version of .NET not being where people expected it to be, and that constantly being turned over. So just hold on tight. If you're going to stay with where you're at and wait till see what happens, then do that. If you're going to grab the cloud hard and hold on, try that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with sticking with on-prem SQL Server until Microsoft really figures out what they're going to do in their cloud.
I mean, I think SQL Server is going to be tough soon. I mean, they're not going back to less frequent releases. From what I read, there's going to be. Probably every 2 years, maybe even every year releases. I mean, they threw it at 2017, and they called it 2017, not 2016 R2. So maybe even yearly releases. So I mean, that's going to be tough to juggle even as a consultant. Like, what version are you on? What can that?
But I mean, for your line DBAs, right? The guy just working on-prem, not a very large stuff that's going on. Is there going to be stuff in the engine that's going to be worth that upgrade? I mean, that's going to be the real question. Yeah. Do I need to upgrade this year or not? I think is going to be a question that we're going to be hearing a lot going down the line as we start seeing more and more frequent updates and a lot more stuff being put into the product and stuff that we may not need or use.
I'm tired of it just because it feels like a sales pitch. Very often it feels like I know they're going to get monthly revenue from me. I get it, but and they're shoving it down DBA's throats to go, buy now, save later, and it just feels kind of old with that. But I get why they're doing it, but it just feels like a spammy overreach right now.
Well, I mean, obviously part of what they want to suck people in for is so that they can keep going towards the automated tuning thing. So although we can fix this problem for you if you just give us the keys to the car, we'll just go in and, watch the engine run and then figure out what needs to get fixed, and we'll just keep doing that. So like we talked about last week with the managed instances, a lot of that is just farmed out to query tuning. So they do the automatic query tuning, they do the automatic index tuning, they fix regression. So it's like all the stuff that they start all the tooling that they're building in with query store wait stats, with the memory grant feedback, all the cool new batch mode stuff. So all that stuff that comes back is like, oh, okay, well, the more people we can get into this, the better we can get the automation to be.
See, Alex has a question. Alex, I'm just going to tell you, whenever you see more than multiple sentences in there, go ahead and follow the instructions on the screen. Go to dba.stackexchange.com. It's a great place to go in and post really long, involved questions. We do the same thing in for ourselves. Erik posted a question today over at Stack. We answer questions over there all the time, but whenever you find multiple questions or multiple paragraphs involved, go ahead and post that over at Stack.
And we answer questions there too.
Answer hours. Sri says, I've got merge replication problems erroring at night due to virtual memory. I've increased the RAM on the VM to 32 gigs. Unfortunately, I'm still having problems with SQL Server running low on virtual memory. Please restart the merge agent. What should I do? That's actually a good one for Stack as well, I think, probably. I don't think any of us have used it. Have any of us used merge replication? No, yeah.
Just transactional. On this week's client is using it, and I've had one other client using it.
Yeah.
I've used it once. That was it. Yeah. That was my first and last time. That was it.
It fried his
microphone. Wait. If it's virtual memory, couldn't that be that the VM is getting sucked dry?
Yeah, it could be anything from outside external memory pressure.
Well,
you know what I might try doing is.
But this is the error from within merge replication, though, and so it's referring to virtual memory at the OS level, isn't it? Wouldn't that be the page file?
Right, but if it's a VM and something else is sucking memory away from the VM, then
right. I mean, the virtual memory in the air. I'm just saying it's not necessarily referring to the virtual memory on a VM.
Oh, yeah, maybe, well, I think what I might try, like, just like the first thing I would do off the top of my head is try turning lock pages and memory on to see if I can keep memory on the box and, kind of keep memory for SQL stuck in there. But
I don't, also go Google for this, because it turns out I just Googled and there's a whole bunch of people with the same issue. So go Google it and there's a bunch of advice out there.
Brent, Google it, Ozar.
Yes. Joseph says, please don't laugh. Have you ever seen a SQL Server database repeatedly fry an SSD drive?
Is it? I wonder if it's the drive that's the problem and not the server.
Yeah. I wonder if it's not the server, like a crappy RAID controller.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us more about what fry means, because I'm curious. What kind of symptoms are you seeing? He says RMA. Is that remotely Madonna assisted, or? Samuel asks, how accurate is the TempDB estimate while running CheckDB with estimate only? Wow, I've never done that.
No, I haven't either. I knew about it, just
I don't know how accurate
it is.
He says, can you simply resize TempDB with the estimated value? Oh, and tell us more information. Tell us how big the database is, like how many gigs or terabytes, and then how large is your TempDB? Just ballpark. That would be interesting to hear.
How big is your largest object in the database?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've run that before, and I want to say that the thing that they use is kind of like what they use to estimate when you run that sort of procedure that estimates like page or row compression, where they'll like kind of take a rough guess at how much it'll compress by looking at some of the data.
Yeah. JH says, is it accurate when enabling TLS 1.2 support, we would need to install a specific patch? Your best bet there is go post that on Stack Exchange as well. We don't get involved with client-side encryption stuff at all. Breck says, Pedro Lopes of Microsoft has a solution to your VLF problems. I'm going to say thanks just so I can stick that in everyone's Q&A if you want to go hit that link. There's actually a really good post by Tracy Baggiano this week. Will be in the weekly links this coming week. She has a script to automatically fix your VLFs. She checks VLFs and then shrinks your database down to nothing and regrows it out to an appropriate amount and just runs it in a SQL agent job, which scared the hell out of me until I remembered it was Tracy Baggiano. And then I was like, oh, I actually kind of trust based on what she was doing to me. And it's a big script. It's huge.
I was going to say, if you wanted to like take into account all the weird stuff, like, is it okay to shrink a log now? Like, what time is it? What's going on?
Yeah, she's got a lot of logic into there. And I was like, well, yeah. I'm working hard on that.
That's cool.
Graham says, I have high CX packet and latch weights. My application is slow. The database size is 90 gigs. The server has 32 cores and 64 gigs of RAM, and I can't put any more RAM on the server. I see a lot of parallelism in query plans for my top 10 most expensive queries. Should I play around with max stop and cost threshold?
I mean, you need to make sure that they're set to, not play around with, but I mean, make sure that they're set appropriately for your server, probably 8 for max stop and 50 for cost threshold for parallelism. But the fact that queries are going parallel doesn't mean that there's a problem. I would tune the expensive queries.
And what would you look at in those queries? What are the kinds of things that you look for?
I mean, that's more of an Erik question, but I mean, from my level, because he gets into the individual operators, I'm just like, I'm out.
Oh, no.
So I'm looking for like glaring problems, the warnings, implicit conversions, compilation timeouts, listing indexes. Look, I'm looking at the scans, but scans aren't necessarily a problem. Expensive key lookups. I always pull my plans into what is it called, Plan Explorer, SQL sets for Century One's Plan Explorer, and then if the query is large enough, I'll go into the top operations tab so I can see exactly which one is the highest estimated percentage, because I can't always find it if it's so big, and a lot of our clients have some really large plans, and at least I'll know what to be on the lookout for when I go back to the graph.
He says it's an ISV app where he can't change the queries. I would still tune indexes, though.
Yeah, index tuning would be the biggest part of that.
Yeah. Joseph says, see howsmyplan.com. All right, I got to go look this up.
Somebody ripping us off.
How'sMyPlan.com. If there was this SME, oh yeah, this is Daniel, I forget his last name, Dan Janik. Has a plan analysis tool, How'sMyPlan.com. Now, I haven't seen it improved a lot lately, like he just launched it once and that was kind of the end of it, but it was interesting. Let's see, Hannah says, is it possible to add schema binding to a current existing view, or do I have to completely recreate it? My goal is to add a clustered index to speed up performance. The view returns 4 billion rows.
You have to alter the view to add schema binding, but you don't have to like tear.
That would be the least of my
recreate the view.
Yeah.
Like
also
4
the
billion
view
rows.
is
Aren't you adding a
whatever.
where clause when you query this view?
I'd be curious to know why you think adding a clustered index to the view would help you return 4 billion rows.
Well, imagine that you got it.
I don't use security reasons. I don't know. That'd be my first question.
Say that the big cost of the view is joining, 1 million rows, cross-applying or cross-joining another million rows and producing billions of rows.
Then you can't make an index view with apply.
No, I mean like an inner join or cross, whatever. So it's going a million times a million. Inner join 1 equals 1. This is horrifying for so many reasons because it's going to write 4 billion rows to disk. It's going to write 4 billion rows, whatever space that takes in order to do the clustered index. Hannah, we like you. We want to know more.
It doesn't matter how many rows the view returns when you just query the view without a where clause. Once you apply the where clause, it's not churning through 4 billion rows and then applying the where clause. I mean, it's not like a linked server where it pulls all over the data first, then filters.
No, but if the view has 4 billion rows and you put an index on it, it's going to take enough space for the 4 billion.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah, that's you now have another.
I've never even, I've tested index views. I've never even gone down the route of deploying those to production because indexing the underlying tables has been sufficient in all cases for me.
Yeah, unless you're doing like really kind of big involved aggregations, I've never seen really great returns on index views either. And plus, there's just so many rules.
Yeah, it's messy. It was for us. It was the overhead of joining tables together was so high, and we were trying to get stuff down into single-digit milliseconds, but super rare.
Yeah, the only time I've had to deal with 4 or 5 billion row tables, I've actually used table partitioning, and then used the partitioning key to get into the data where I needed to. But on a view,
somehow your audio went flawless again.
Somehow.
And you're not, I've seen you. You haven't even gone near the computer. You've been standing over by the couch. There's a random number generator. Maybe it's the pacemaker that's in your pocket, maybe.
Am I better now?
You're totally good. It's flawless.
Yep.
Samuel says his database size, this is about that CheckDB with estimate only. Samuel says, my database size is 100 gigs. The largest table is 90 gigs. My temp DB was 10 gigs. Don't ask. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. Especially assuming you have any indexes on that thing, you're going to need, it's not like you're going to need 100 gigs, but I wouldn't try to get by with 15 or 20.
Yeah, but read that again. His database is 100 gigs and his largest table is 90 gigs.
It's basically
like
one
relativity.
I was going to say, does it have audit in the name? Like log? What's?
Because maybe? I don't know.
Because what I'm curious about is because I see this a lot with databases of this type where you will have that auditing or that logging table, and that table will be a heap, and that heap may have a whole bunch of empty space in it. So I would be curious if that's part of why that table is so massively weird, or just has some crazy XML column in it that I don't want to talk about.
Mike says, if I restore a database to a temporary server to run as production for a day or two, do I need to restore any of the system databases with it?
No, I've never had to do that.
And you think about how you want to move your jobs around, like agent jobs or stuff like that, but SSIS packages, security.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a restore to a temporary store just to do some dev testing, unless you have objects that you rely on in system databases, then no. And even then, I would just script those out and stick them on the server.
But if you can take the downtime and you install on that second server using the same paths as the original server, stop SQL Server and copy all database files over. I mean, the system databases over, and then both servers have to be stopped for this, and then start them up. That gives you a quick way to get all the logins and jobs and everything. That way you don't have to individually script stuff out. But that requires a downtime to do it.
And then Srijith says, and I'm going to take this one because I'm pissed. Srijith says, Larry Ellison reveals self-driving database. No,
Yes.
He says he's going to build one. He doesn't have one yet. Similarly, I would like to announce, I don't know, I was going to come up with something and I can't do it on the fly without being horrible. He says, quote unquote, fully autonomous cloud database service. Sounds cool. What's your take? My take is that it's just like every time that Larry Ellison says things like, my database is unbreakable. This database is self-tuning. Oracle's amazing. It's really cool. But you notice how it's always surrounded by a group of highly paid experts, gently massaging it, feeding it cheese, whatever. It is a highly tuned database that requires highly paid professionals. I am sure that Larry is hearing the calls of people saying, come to SQL Server. Any knucklehead can manage this thing. And going, well, I better make it easier to manage. So he's going to paint a rosy picture of what it's like down the road. It's going to take years or lots of releases to get there. But will Microsoft announce something similar? They already have. Azure SQL DB, they make the same kinds of claims about automated index tuning and automated query tuning. And it doesn't work yet.
The other thing is that Larry has been making similar claims since I think around Oracle 9 that, doesn't need a DBA, fixes itself, has like, little settings you can change to just make everything fly right. So, just another one of those things that'll not happen down the line.
Yeah. Samantha says, he also says, buy our cloud credits. Yeah, I mean, they got caught behind the game in terms of the cloud. It's just like with Microsoft got caught behind with Internet Explorer. Netscape Navigator came, took out over the world. Microsoft had to backpedal fast, and they were able to get past it, build out a web browser, and did fine. But I don't know how Oracle's going to do long-term in terms of sales, but they've got a fantastic database. I'm sure they're going to do well. Roy says, what are we going to do when Ola Hollengren stops upgrading his maintenance solution, like when he retires? The great news is he's got it on GitHub. He put the whole thing out on GitHub so you can make changes to it. We've already branched it ourselves and made changes to send back to Ola. So it's cool. If he retired, I think we would probably be willing to take it over. Would be a lot of fun. I think that, or we would fork it into like the DBA Tools project. I think the community's adopted it so much that it'll keep going.
I felt bad when I retired from my solutions because I was one of the competitors back in the day. I had actually had mine out there longer, but it was just so hard to keep it up to date with all the versions and additions and all the various things. And eventually I gave up and we stopped using my solution at my work and deployed out Ola's code to, I mean, that was about 700 servers we had it deployed to. And I knew from my emails and the blog comments that my solution had been used on tons of servers around the world. And I'm just like, sorry, I just don't have the time to do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I'm going to be really curious how Ola decides to keep up with releases. So because like just in 2017, there are a couple really cool new system view or additions to views for log files and for data files where it'll tell you how much has changed. So you can actually make a decision to flip to a full backup if enough stuff has changed. Like you don't want to take a differential now. You're going to go ahead and take a full backup because enough stuff has changed. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how he decides to keep up with that. Brent's frozen.
Brent's frozen. And his audio. Maybe he's gone.
Yeah, we got him. We got him.
I was sitting there and I was looking at him. I was like, I'm saying something stupid. Yeah. He's just going. Yeah. He's making that like school mom face. I'm like, oh crap, I'm saying something.
Make fun of my audio one more time, Brent. One more time.
Make fun of my video one more time.
That's all the questions we have anyway. So I mean, we got either end the call here.
All we know is that North Korea has bombed Chicago.
Okay.
Whoa, let's not mess with that. That's
all right. Well, we're out of questions and just about out of time anyway. And I think Brent has actually silently called the end of this. So let's boogie, people.
All right. See ya.
Bye. He wills.